folks just recently at the Principal Association meeting. It's nice to see you all again. I promise I won't be up here long. In today's world, some of the most important things in the schools is how can we save money and how can we communicate better. So technology is a really good way to go. And we know we've done different things in technology, like with self-service and all different things going on. So come on down. Welcome. What we have today is really an interesting session today. We have some of your fellow principals here today to show you some of the things and some of the secrets they've used, school collaboration, how they've used it, how they're saving money, how they're saving time, and reducing forms and going paperless. So that's really important. As I said earlier, this is really going to be a large interactive session. Questions, definitely want questions. We'll be running the mic around for your questions. We are recording today. We're live and recording. So it's going to be the three principals, elementary, middle, and high school principals. They're going to talk to you a little bit. They're going to give you a little spiel of what's going on from their perspective, which is very important. And then after that, we're going to open it up to questions and ideas, any kind of thoughts that you might have after you see what they're ready to present. We have our web services gang over here today. The guys are involved with all our web applications and things like that. So like I said, being respectful to your time, I don't want to take too much of your time today. So Mike, I'm going to hand it over to you if you have something that you want to add to for the group.
Well, since Gary told you everything I was going to say, anyway. Mike. That's quite all right. Basically, I just wanted to give you some background. Of course, Gary covered a lot of it, so I'm going to tell you some other things other than things that Gary told you about. We started this project actually about 2 years ago when we first proposed it as a project, and we went with a couple of pilot schools, and the three principals you see in front of you, they were part of our pilot program. So they've actually been working with their sites since this past January, and they've been building things out on their current sites. Of course, some of them had sites previously that they were working on, their own internal WSS sites, so they really had a head start on how they were going to go and build out their collaboration. So one of the things that we wanted to do is to bring them in front of you today so that you guys can get some of the enthusiasm that these three have, how you can make your school more efficient, how you can get better communication between your staff members, and maybe even how you can save some money at your school by doing some of the things that they're doing. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time going through the first couple of slides because Gary already covered it, and I'm going to go right into introducing our speakers. The first one we have is Janice Quinn. She's from Sunridge Elementary School, and I have some of the topics up here she's going to be talking about, but we're going to be switching monitors so that as she's talking about some of the things, we're going to be showing some of the things from her site itself. So turn it over to Janice. Thank you. Now you can speak from there as long as you use the microphone.
I'm going to just talk about the three components. One is efficiency. So I'm going to show you three areas where my staff and my schools embraced the SharePoint site and really using it more efficient than we did in the past. The first area is for MTSS or RTI. So we have created an MTSS folder or site, and we post all our information on there. Now, this is a work in progress. Everything I'm going to talk about is a work in progress because we just started in January. So we've been building and sharing ideas with the other principals and learning things and adding things to our site all the time. So MTSS is one thing we added this year after working with our site for 6 months last year. So under that MTSS site, when a staff member wants to make a request, an initial request, there's a form. So I'm going to show you just 2 students that we've started the process on this year. So the teacher goes onto the SharePoint site, fills out the forms, and then posts all the data there. So we don't have to go ask the teacher for the data, what's happening, what's the fare, what's all this. It's all in there. And if you want to just go on Angela or that one too, either one of those, you can see where they filled out that's our request, meeting request, and then they've attached all kinds of documentation so it's in one place. We don't have to go to the CUME, we don't have to go to the teacher, we don't have to go all these different places. So my CRT and my guidance counselor, who are 2 people who start the process for MTS, they can review this, meet with the teacher and the team and discuss it. Keep scrolling down and you'll see all the pages they have attached there that gives all the information that we need to start the MTSS process. This teacher has even started, you can see her graphs and everything. So we know exactly where she is, where the child is. They've started doing all the ongoing progress monitoring already. And it really helps. It speeds up that efficiency instead of having to collect all these papers. We used to start these little red folders and have a place in the office where all the red folders went. So this is a lot easier for us. That's her documentation. If you want to scroll down, you can see the graph she's already started. And then we look very professional and very experts when we meet with the parent too. We really do, because we have all the documents in one place and we're not shifting and things like that. And the other student is exactly like this. Then we'll go to the next step when we go to the MTS. That's the initial step. Then we'll keep adding as we need to, and as we go farther along, we're not there yet this year, but we'll just keep adding the documentation and everything we need for MTSS. So the psychologist and everyone that's supporting that child can see that. The intervention specialist who's working with the children can look and see that. So that was a big piece we added this year that the teachers really, really like, and we're just beginning to use, but we see it's going to really improve our efficiency as MTSS. The next place is lesson plans. This is the first place the teachers wanted to start last year. So we have, if you see across the top, we have for elementary, we did it by grade levels. So if you go to second grade, I'll just show you a quick, at second grade, every grade level has a calendar, and then they have shared documents that they share, and that's where they keep their data and their lesson plans. So if you look at this, second grade has CIA reading lessons. That's still the folder from last year. And if you want to do the reading unit 2, they've started utilizing the district lesson plan template. And during PLCs and where they're doing their collaboration, they're working right on the SharePoint, using the lesson plan template and getting together and doing collaborative planning for their team, and they're just tackling one subject, because we're finding it's not exactly elementary friendly. We like the template, but we think it needs some tweaking. So we're working with it, and we're trying, and we're modifying it and working with it at our school site. And they've just started, and you can see there's a lot there. It's hard, I think, in elementary to do it as units. I think that's more middle school, high school friendly, but we're working with it and we're trying, and they're doing a good job on it. We just decided to tackle one subject area and try to get through that and get a little bit expert on the lesson plan, doing one subject area and then move to the others. So that's an example. Last year we did do lesson planning 2 on it, and it was very successful. It provided, I think, a more collaborative planning. Not that every teacher does exactly the same thing every minute in every classroom, but it gives them a good structure, and it's addressing the Common Core. The other area that it's helped us a lot is with student data, and this is where it helps me immensely when I have to go to my progress monitoring meetings for the district or for our learning community. Under each grade level, if you want to go back, let's pick fifth grade this time. You go to 5th grade and you go to share, that's 5th grade calendar there. So that's their calendar. That's what they want to put on there. Then if you go to share documents, go to 5th grade data. Every grade level has a data folder. And then if you go to, that's a teacher, Mrs. McKenna. My CRT loves organization and charts. So she's developed an Excel worksheet where all their progress monitoring is in one folder, one place, and we don't have to go hunting for that. They don't have to turn anything in. I just look at it. It tells me what I want to know. I can pull the data and take it to my progress monitor meetings. So the first tab is forms, and that just helps the teachers with, did they turn in their student planner and agenda things? Did they turn in their photo release? Did they do all that? Then the second one's all their reading data, and we've done some of the beginning of the year stuff for them so that it's all at one place. Then we go to next math. She's done a chart for math, so we have all the data for math. You can see we did the PSI in the beginning of the year test for Go Math, and it's all there. And then writing and science is combined on one for 5th grade. And the teachers just go in and update this, and then it's just really, really easy. If you want to know about anybody, if an intervention teacher wants to know about the progress, or we do. So that's really helped. It's helped me immensely. I'm not having to keep, I used to have that huge notebook. And I'm sure you guys did too. That huge notebook that I had, 1st grade this, 2nd grade this, fair, all that kind of stuff. So this has replaced all our notebooks and all the papers we used to keep and bring to data meetings and everything. So this has been a wonderful component for me and the teachers. Obviously, the communication is a lot better in the school. I have a weekly newsletter that goes out. I'm sure these gentlemen do too. Theirs probably is a little different. And I put it up there. Our master calendar's up there. It's called the Sensational because we're Sunridge. So that the teachers know that that's where they go when they want to find information, what's happening in the school, what's happening this week, when am I going to be out at a meeting, you know, what events are happening at the school. So that's there under shared documents under just the Sunridge tab. It's just called the Sensational. Any announcements we use are always up there so that the teachers know about those. The other thing that the teachers requested after we started using the master calendar last year, they keep getting these new calendars for us to add because they like the master calendar. It's one place. The teachers keep this as their home page when they open their computer each day. So this pops up each day for them. That's their home site. So if you notice under, we have the additions calendar now because we were having parents just drop in and go to classes and no one knew. And the front office clerk didn't know if she had an appointment or she just wanted to go visit or what. So now we have an additions calendar where the teachers put in, I'm having this mom come, and the front office clerk knows, okay, this parent's coming to work in this classroom. I know I don't have to call the teacher. I don't have to interrupt instruction time. I can just let them go down. The other area is under, if you go to the CRT tab up at the top, scroll. Yeah. They also requested, we have computer labs and laptop carts and a science lab. So they also requested, instead of we were posting and trying to juggle times, we just post the calendars up there and the teachers can select when they want to go to the science lab, when it's open, when it's not open, when the computer labs are open, when the computer lab and the computer cart. We have a cart that we roll around when they can use that and who's got it next, who's got it before them. So all that information's there and we don't have to post it anywhere. And the teachers input that for us. We don't, you know, that's just theirs and they know when they can schedule time in there. If they're on the calendar, that's their time. We also have a media center calendar on there that's the same for the media center. They schedule in, or she schedule in book times and reading times. So the teachers, I think the first thing they joined in was on the calendars. That's the first thing they started using, and they liked that a lot. And I just kept referring them, well, look on the master calendar, and then that's the way I sort of eased it in. And it was easy to use. And once they got used to going there and everything was on those calendars, then I sort of hooked them in. And that's when we started everything else, using everything else and adding the pieces. And that's when they started saying, oh, we need an additions calendar. Let's do MTSS on there. Let's do this. So I'm very pleased, and my teachers are very pleased with it. So I am glad these guys wrote me into it. I went to one training with them. And I don't know how. One training, they really asked me if I would do it, and I said sure, because I knew we were going to have the technology to do it, and with the new school. So I'm really glad because it's really been a benefit to my school. And I'll turn it over to Jose, who's going to give you what they use it for, and maybe a little bit more of a middle school perspective.
Great, thanks, Janice.
While Jose's getting ready and while Hector's getting ready, these are some of the topics that Jose's going to talk about. He's talking about middle schools. I hope you got something from Janice's discussion. A lot of the stuff that she's doing, just because she's coming from an elementary school, doesn't mean it doesn't apply to middle school and high school as well. You can take a lot of the information and apply across the board to all the schools. What we tried to do is have each one of our principals talk about something a little bit different so you get a broad spectrum of the things that you can do. So I'm going to turn it over to Jose. He's middle school principal. He's coming from Lake Nona. Thank you.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm actually not sure how I got roped into this. I'm going to blame Doug Zinski for this one. But seriously speaking, this has been a great opportunity for us. Last year, we were utilizing the old version of the Sharepoint site. One of the features that really sold with my staff right off the gate was the accessibility off campus. With the old version, you were pretty much limited to having to be essentially on OCPS property for the most part. But I instantly got buy-in once my staff was aware that it was accessible off campus. The first thing I'm going to talk to you about is essentially the creation of highlighting all of the departments that are pertinent to the operation for us at a middle school level. So all of my departments, as you can see, actually has their own site within the main SharePoint site. So Hector, if we could actually hit on science. So my curriculum leaders, my department chairs, each of them are responsible for essentially the oversight of each tab, each department. So you're going to see here my science department curriculum leader, she actually has her main calendar with any events that are pertinent to them within their actual department. And she also has documents to the left of the screen where she will post instructional materials that are going to be pertinent to their PLCs, to their lesson study activities that they're doing within their department. And most of them actually came over during the summer, so a lot of this was built during the summer so that it would be ready for the start of the school year. Go back to the home page. You could scroll down. And from what I will do from time to time, and you could briefly see it up top, I will post announcements. So one of the things that I ask my staff every morning, we have it set up to where the SharePoint site is their main homepage. So when they open up Internet Explorer, the first site that they see is going to be that homepage, so they know that if there's anything that I need to announce for the day, that I will be posting it there up top. So we actually, if you scroll all the way up to the top, you can see we had a one of the things that I posted as a reminder was just a coffee and donut social that we were having this morning, just to celebrate a good open house week. Down below, you'll see our master calendar, and that's pretty much all of the events that are taking place pertinent to the school, so staff members have access to that as well. Embedded within the site is a facilities calendar, so if we have any staff members that want to essentially take a look at what facilities are being used on campus with outside entities, they're able to see that as well. This also helps my PTSA group. I also have them linked into SharePoint, so if they are wanting to request use of a facility, they're able to just come into our main SharePoint site to see whether or not the facility is going to be available before they actually make the formal request. If you look to the right, if you scroll all the way to the right, we have a weather map. It's called Gary's Forecast. Mr. Gary is actually one of the clerks at my school, so he's actually responsible for checking our weather. So he lets us know when it's time to start taking a look for the 30-30. So just trying to use a little bit of humor and get the staff buy-in. So we actually have that linked in there, especially since we've had a lot of 30-30s, more so than last year. So that's just kind of a neat way to do that. We also are starting podcast capabilities. So we're having teachers starting to record themselves teaching a particular lesson. If you take a look here, this is actually a video cast with one of my math teachers that we've posted on here, where she's
Hello.
How to use our rule thinking map to add integers. So I'm going to use the same problems we used in class today to review to help you remember what we did. The first problem was 4 plus -2. Now, if we're following our thinking map, we go to the first block and it says check to see if your terms have.
Pretty much this is just an opportunity too for our teachers. Some of them actually will send those video podcasts to students that are, if it's a long-term absence, if they're absent for the day, they'll just email that to the student or to the student's parent. But it's also a good tool for teachers to also see how other teachers are teaching particular lessons. So that's something that our math department is heading up on that note with that. And then, of course, it really is important when you're doing this to really allow your teachers to play with it. The transition was a real soft transition for me. I just made sure that I allow the teachers the opportunity to essentially go in there, play with it, and then they would suggest different things that they feel would be beneficial to them, and then we would build it based upon their need. So essentially, that's my side in a nutshell. So. There's a feature where you could actually just put in an email address, and then you can allow accessibility to the user. It's actually quite simple. It takes 2 seconds. Pretty much what I do is I just go in there and type in the email address. There's a share feature. You go in there, you type in the email address. That was huge. I mean, that was huge for us. And then once I told my staff, hey, you could take a look at it off campus, especially the master calendar. That was a big thing for my staff, and they were able to link in.
It's built in the program. I didn't have to do it. When we got on, it was automated. When I give permissions and everything, and they set it all up for us. I did, the tech team, and that's the one that I built. Right. We didn't really have to do it.
Yeah. If you go to share, because essentially your staff, you would just give accessibility. If you go up top to share, one of the things I did have to review prior with my staff was just being very careful with the information, simply because it was accessible off-site. So that was something that I did stress with them. But if you take a look over here where it says invite people to read, you could actually give people specific permissions. So my curriculum leaders who are responsible for the individual sites, I'll give them edit permissions as opposed to the read-only, obviously. But here you would just enter the name or email addresses, or Zinski. You could put Doug's name and then you would just click share and he has access to it. It's simple. Yep.
Can we hold questions until after we have all the principals do their presentation, and we'll go into the questions?
All right. Hey, Doug, thank you.
And the reason why for that is because without the mic, nobody can. This is being recorded, so without the mic, the question's not heard. So we're going to go over everything.
Okay, our next speaker is going to be Doug Zinski. Previously, he was at Freedom Middle School, but this summer he got a promotion, and now he's the principal over at West Orange. And I think he's going to show maybe a little bit of both, possibly, maybe, or at least he'll talk about some of the stuff at Freedom Middle, because he had a lot of stuff built over there as well. So let's go. I'm going to turn it over to Doug.
Hey, good afternoon. Y'all had the experts, now you got me. Actually, this is the West Orange site. Unlike Jose, who had a soft lead in, when I got to West Orange, we had a violent shove into reality. Basically, I was told half of your staff, Doug, they won't use SharePoint. They're not going to. And I said, well, they don't have an option. If they want to turn in lesson plans and actually get it credited on Domain 3 or Domain 2 for their assessment, they're going to use SharePoint. They want to put something on the calendar, it's going to go through SharePoint. They need a facilities request, it's going to go through SharePoint, and on and on and on. And so it became a joke that the answer was, oh, it's on SharePoint. And you guess what the answer was? It's on SharePoint. And within 2 months' time, every single teacher's using it every day because they don't have a choice. So unlike Jose, he's much nicer than I am. Maybe that's why they made me a high school principal. I use this for two things, actually maybe three. One is CYA for me, okay? I don't need to go into the acronym, but it covers me when I need to do reports for the district, stuff like that. Number two is accountability for teachers. I know what teachers are doing. I know what collaboration groups are doing, things like that. And it's because of the alert feature. And I know that Mike was going to go into the alert feature because it comes right to my email. I don't ever have to go into the collaboration form. They fill it out. It comes right to my email. I see exactly what the collaboration was that day, and I can respond to that email and send it to everybody. So you have accountability. That's a big one. And you have, again, CYA for me. A couple of things they wanted me to show you in regards to this particular site is all the forms that are on the left side. We do everything in either surveys or forms, and it's all real-time information. The copy requests are there. The calendar requests are there. The announcement requests are there. Everything comes is posted there. So it's a one-stop shop for everything that you could possibly do at West Orange. Now, ours is just in-house. So we do run two separate calendars. I run an in-house calendar because parents don't need to know when content collaboration is, okay? And vice versa. I run an external calendar on the website that has everything else: facilities, rentals, sports, athletics, chorus, all that kind of stuff. Some of the other things that we have developed this year is ISS and OSS. One of the problems I've seen at every single school is teachers sending work down to the front desk for kids that are absent, or sending it to ISS because they're in ISS. Teacher goes on here, fills out the ISS or OSS form, attaches whatever documents they need, and it goes directly to the ISS coordinator's inbox with the document and with everything. Same thing, it goes to the front desk for OSS, because all you secondary principals know that you get, or even 4th, 5th grade, you get complaints from parents. My kid's suspended for 10 days, but nobody sent any work home. Okay, so now there's no excuse. There's no running things up to the office, things like that. Some of the other features we have on that side that we've developed this year is a safe referral. So all of that is done online. No more filling out the paperwork or anything like that. You fill it out right here. You can attach anything. And this is something that Hector and I worked very hard on, actually, very recently, is to make sure that when the safe referral is put in, only that teacher can see that safe referral, okay? Because I don't want a different teacher making an assumption about a student that may not apply to them. And so you can lock it so just that person can go in and see that one and see the updates and things like that. So again, we've run everything on your left, on that left side, is run through either forms or surveys, okay? Couple of the other things, much like theirs, if you go to reading, Hector, you'll see this is where all of our collaboration is done. She posts agendas, links, discussion board is up there. If by chance they can't meet and they don't want to do it via email, they can do it right here on the discussion board. And it keeps them accountable. And then, as well as these sites, every PLC, and it doesn't matter to me if it's just 9th grade language arts meeting or if it's the entire language arts department, everybody fills out a collaboration form. It's about accountability to the teachers. It's one of the big issues I've had at West Orange. People weren't held accountable, and so I needed to make sure that there was accountability, that there were meetings going on. And not only that, but they were meetings that were purposeful for student achievement, okay? Not just getting meeting just to meet to eat bonbons and drink coffee, okay? Hit the collaboration form on the homepage. And this is set up, this is the one of them that's set up for an email alert. It alerts me, tells me exactly what they're doing. They go in and they answer the 4 PLC questions, because if you can answer those 4 questions, then you're going to move students and you're going to move instruction and things like that. So I probably get anywhere from 15 to 20 of these a week. It also, again, going back to CYA, it covers me, because when they ask me for my documentation next week for my final evaluation, it's all there. I can drag those emails, just a select few of them, put them in whatever folder Kathy wants me to put them in, and there's your documentation that we're doing PLCs and what we're doing in PLCs. 2 other features, go ahead and go to Freedom. 2 other features that we've built over the years. One is the intervention log. The intervention log, our interventions run, teacher will go in and put in an intervention, okay? And this is very content specific, skill specific. What I was trying to do is find a way for teacher, or for us to help children where they need help and when they need help, not waiting till the end of a unit or the end of a chapter. So a child is hurting in whatever, adding and subtracting. They can go on, they fill out this form, and I have my staff that pulls these interventions or pushes in, get those alerts, so they never have to go back on here and find out what kid it is, what they need interventions. So I set it up, the 3 coaches at Freedom, the ESOL paras, the CCT, and the support facilitators in ESE all get these alerts. So one of those 9 people will then go and either push into the class or pull the kid out and hit them right where they need that skill, when they need that skill. Especially important in math. My math coach last year pulled 570 interventions himself. because you know if you miss one skill in math, you ain't going to get the next skill in math. So this was really great to have accountability for us administratively, so we could hit those kids where they needed the help. It also, again, going back, CYA, guys, this was my deliberate practice. This downloads directly into a spreadsheet. I send that spreadsheet to Kathy Pope, and there are 700 plus interventions done last year, either push in, pull out. Okay. Now, I did hold the coaches accountable, because if you scroll over, Hector, what they do is they will go back into this form and they will say either it's working on, completed, and here's what I did with the child. I pushed in and I worked on this skill. I pulled out, I worked on this skill. So that teacher can go back into SharePoint and say what's been done with it. The only caveat to this form is we learned very quickly that certain fields need to be required. The teachers were skipping the form, the part of the form that said what I did to intervene in class. It's just miraculously, they weren't filling that one out. So very quickly that became a required field, because I wanted to know, and my coaches want to know, what did you do to help the kid out to intervene, so that now we can come in and help and reteach it in a different way. Okay. The last thing is the Pure Panther program. We had a positive referral program at Freedom when kids were doing the right thing or went over and above. We pounced the kids. In the first pounce, they got a shirt, drawings at the end of each quarter, things like that. We gave away iPod shuffles and things like that. Teacher goes in, fills out a pounce, and then whoever's in charge of it, in our case last year, it was one of the deans that was in charge of it. He would put first time, second time, third time, that kind of stuff. He would go back in and do that. But it's all real-time data. We did this so we could track Pure Panther. We did this for dress code. We did it for cell phones. We did it for tardies, and all in real-time data. Okay, so it's one of those really cool features. And again, if you need documentation, it dumps right into a CVS or Excel file, and there's your documentation. Okay, so in a nutshell, there isn't anything at those two schools that's not done on this. So if you need ideas, have questions, I know any one of the three of us will be happy to help.
Thank you, Doug. I hope all of you have been thinking about what they've been talking about so far, because now it's your turn to ask them questions. We're going to have someone run around with a microphone. So when you raise your hand, wait till someone gets to you with a microphone, because we are recording this, so that the principals that are not here, they'll be able to hear not only the answer to the question, but they'll know what the question was in the first place.
How do we access the SharePoint offsite is the question.
Pretty much when you go to the share feature, type in an email address. On the receiving end, so the person that's receiving the email will have a link with the URL there. So they would just click it and they have access to it. So that's it.
Now that is for all employees within Orange County. You can use the email address like he said in that field, or you can just type in their personnel number. It pulls directly from Active Directory. So you'll start seeing the names start populating underneath, and you can do multiple at the same time. And then when you hit share, it's going to generate an email to that particular person with a hyperlink, like he said, saying you now have access to the site. Click on the hyperlink and it'll bring you there.
And many of you all have access to Freedom, because I've given a lot of principals access to Freedom, and even West Orange. So, and then if you wanted help, or if you wanted to be able to see what we're doing, send us an email. We'll be happy to help out or give access. There are ways, God bless Mr. Baez up there, because there are ways to even steal those forms and those surveys. And so you don't have to recreate them. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's one of the ways that I was able to get West Oranges up so quickly was I was taking those templates from Freedoms and building West Oranges. Okay.
And we can talk more about that at a later time, because we can give you information about where those templates are. And maybe your tech coordinator out at your school might want to contact us, and we'll show them how they can use those templates, and they'll save them a tremendous amount of time.
I have a question about the podcast. When you send the address to the parent, they're just seeing the podcast. They can't get into the site.
Correct. They'll actually just, what some of my teachers do, they actually just will put it on their own individual sites, or they will just email it out.
And then I think I have a question for you guys. When we saw the elementary one, I liked all the folders, but at the training, you guys were trying to tell us not to go with folders. But no, we're folder people. So what do you think about that? Can we use those? Because it's really confusing for the teachers when there's a list of 500 documents and they've got 2 seconds to spare every day. So what are your thoughts on the folders?
Okay, I'm going to say it this way. We've done things both ways in the past, and we have decided, as long as you start educating people how metadata works, metadata is just columns for each of your libraries that further defines how to find information. And if your metadata is set up correctly, you can find data a lot more quickly. Now, here's one of the things that's going to solve. Right now with folders, people have a tendency to have folders within folders, within folders, within folders. And they will put something in one set of folders, and then somebody else will forget where it was, and they'll put the same document in a different folder. And then the third person will come in and put it somewhere else because they can't find where the folders are that they were going to put the file in. So you're going to wind up with 2 or 3 or more different versions, and we've seen this actually happen, and nobody knows what the correct version is, because they all have a little bit of a different change. So how do you go back then and take those 3 different versions and bring it back into one? The method that we're recommending, and a lot of other people recommend it as well, it's not just us, is by using metadata. The file only exists in one place, and you use the metadata. When you're at the top of the column has a drop down, and you select, and that's basically a filter. And you filter to find the information that you want. You only have the file in one place, edit it one place, you don't have the problems with multiple copies. Most people who have done it both ways, and they made us start with folders because that's the way we learned how to do things. When computers first came out, that was the only method. But most people who now have tried using metadata after they've given it a shot and tried it, they switch over and they do everything with metadata. We've done that with departments internally here. We just worked with a group yesterday, which had literally dozens, if not 100 different folders and subfolders. They couldn't find anything anymore.
The group he's talking about, the URL for the folders was so long, it didn't work anymore, because in the browser, you only have a certain amount of characters that an address can be in length. This was so long, it couldn't be found anymore. So what's going to happen, and we worked with them, is we're going to remove all the folders, put those thousands of documents in one library, and then we're just making those, think of those folders as categories for those column names. So if I was looking for something for a specific school year, I'd select the school year in the filter across the top. If you guys know in Excel, you can make your filters right across the top, correct? So when you click on that filter and you select it, it limits the list. And then you go to another column and select, okay, I want to see my, IEPs. So then select IEP. So then that 1,000 documents has now been dwindled down to 10 or 15. So, but it is much faster doing it when in one location. Folders within folders is a nightmare.
And
I'm going to preface this by saying their fault they invited me. That's the district side. Here's the real world. Okay. In a school, I use folders. If you go to shared documents, I use folders. Part of the reason is accountability. Again, teachers understand folders. Okay. They completely understand that. And for me to try to train 315 staff members right now on metadata and to organize all this stuff, if they want to go and look up an IEP, every single student that has an IEP is there. There's no reason why they cannot come to me and say, I never got their IEP. Well, you have access. You know where it's at. You need to look it up. Okay. Now, the one caveat to that is you have to clean this every summer. Okay. That's the key to metadata, is that it really shrinks the files down. It's better for the servers, that kind of stuff. Okay. If you don't clean this And I've talked to some schools that have documents on there from 2004 and stuff like that from their old SharePoints. Yes, your drives are going to be, but and Hector, when he was my tech, him and I would go through every summer through every single document and find out what needed to be there, what didn't need to be there, so we could start over for the next school year. Okay, so to me, that's the key.
So that leads to my question, which maybe Gary can answer. If teachers are uploading lesson plans on there, what do we do as far as records? Do we have to still pull down the file, print it, and send it to records for audit purposes?
Stephanie, what we do every summer is we pull all the lesson plan folders off and put them in a file on the server called 1314 or lesson plans 1314, and it starts with a clean slate, because yes, that bogs down SharePoint more than anything. I got 215 teachers on my campus. That's a lot of dang lesson plans throughout the year. Okay, so then we pull those off. So it also helps the teachers if they need to access them again. We have them on our server. Yeah. Does that help?
Any other questions?
This one is for you, Doug.
For me.
You said surveys, and we used SharePoint a lot through the Outlook, that one, and we tried to do surveys. And one of the things we stumbled upon, unfortunately, was when we were trying to have teachers vote online for like Teacher of the Year, Support Person of the Year. They could see how other people were voting during the voting. You can make them anonymous, and you can just, okay, that's question number one. Question number two gets back to calendars, because I love the idea of when teachers go to the internet, it's their landing page and they see that calendar, but one calendar won't do it. So are your folks still creating calendars in Outlook that we share over here, the facilities calendar, the media center, the testing, and
no, actually
important things for the master one, or what are you doing? Is it all on that?
Check. Yeah, actually, there are different calendars. There's a media center calendar. There is a computer lab calendar, and then everything else goes on the main SharePoint calendar. The way my Outlook is set up, I have my external calendar for the website, I have my internal calendar, I have my personal. Everything for me goes on one of those three. Everything for the media center goes on media center. Everything for labs. And most of the time right now, it's testing. And
and just to give you a little insight on SharePoint calendars, they connect directly to your Outlook. So Doug doesn't have to come to the website to update his calendar. He'll go in there and he will open up his Outlook. He has a main school Outlook calendar that he can actually overlay over his personal calendar. So he makes a change on that calendar. It's going to be on the SharePoint calendar without him ever going there.
What Hector's showing you right now is when you display a calendar, there's a little button at the top that says Connect to Outlook. And when you click on Connect to Outlook, it actually will display that calendar inside your Outlook. Now, this is person by person. This isn't across all your staff. But each person can connect that calendar to their personal Outlook, and they can see them side by side. They can add things to the SharePoint calendar directly from Outlook. And they can look to see how their schedule compares to the schedule that's being put into SharePoint to see when there are meetings that they have to attend. They can actually even take an event that's in the SharePoint calendar, drag it to their personal calendar by just clicking on it and dragging it over to their personal calendar. Once it's in their personal calendar, they can set up a reminder, the hour, half hour, 15-minute, whatever you prefer. You can set up a reminder that event is coming up. So that's how you work together with SharePoint and Outlook. And again, it's something that we can cover more. If you have people that come to our open labs or some of we have a lot of documentation out on our website, and we have a lot of videos as well. So you might want to check some of those things out. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, and there is a lot of stuff on there. I do separate out the media center. She runs, the media specialist will run on each campus, will run the computer labs and the media center for kids to come down, or for you to send the kid to 527 or whatever it is. So that one is definitely separate. To answer your other question, whatever, I do use individual forms, like forms that are only used 2 weeks out of the year. Intent to return forms done on SharePoint. Class counts for FTE done on SharePoint. It's so easy to go in, for teachers, go and put their name, the period, the number, and it goes to Excel. You go down to the bottom, you hit tabulate, and you have your class count like that, instead of going through form. But everybody, y'all have done that before by form.
So in other words, it takes you like a couple minutes to do yours instead of ours.
Yes, a couple minutes. So there are, and then when I'm done with those, I'll take them down, or I'll hide them until the next time I need them.
And you can see that you can have multiple calendars all connected to your Outlook. So at the tab at the top, it names the calendar that you're working on, so you know which one. It's going to be a different color for each one. So, and you can even overlap them. So if you want to overlay each one of them to see how they affect each other.
Other questions?
I think we had some questions I think you guys would like to know.
Well, the first question we put down, just in case we needed to prime the pump a little bit, I think Doug already answered it his way. How do you encourage your staff to begin using a collaboration site? He encourages them by not giving them a choice, which is definitely a way that works. So we already heard that. What about Jose and Janice?
I posted, I would say, did you check SharePoint? That's the way I did it. I don't know if I don't think Doug was as harsh as he said, but maybe he was. But I did the same thing. Well, you need to check SharePoint, or, when they wanted to see the sensational and the things that I was posting, it's on SharePoint. Well, can't you email it to me? I'd say, no, it's on SharePoint. So I kept redirecting them too. And they finally figured out after a while the same thing. Everyone's going to say it's on SharePoint. So I did it, just repetition.
Yeah, I pretty much did it the same way. Keep in mind, too, when we actually did the pilot for this, we were actually using the old version of SharePoint, and then I introduced the new version of SharePoint. So trying to transition all the documents and whatnot was a little bit, but really just, it's the first thing they open up every morning when you access your Internet Explorer. I mean, I think all of us here have our SharePoint sites, so that's pretty much it.
Hey, thank you. I want to go into a question here that Doug alluded to a little bit when he talked about alerts. And the question was, have you done anything with staff alerts or RSS feeds to automate the notification of your staff about updates, new announcements, documents, etc.?
One of the things I will tell you about alerts, when you do set up the alerts, like I get alerts for announcement request. It has the club, it has the location, time, or that kind of thing, and it has the announcement. So, and part of that list, or that the teacher's filling out, it will ask you, do you want it on the morning announcements, afternoon announcements, SharePoint, Twitter? So when I get that alert in my email, I literally copy and paste it into Facebook, and it goes to Facebook and Twitter like that, and parents are informed immediately. And I have about 2,500 Facebook and SharePoint and Twitter followers now in about a month and a half's time. And a lot of it is because they are updated on everything that comes in. That's one great way to use the alerts.
We're going to go over a little alerts. We're going to bring you quickly a overview of what templates or what your internal SharePoint site's going to look like. Does any of the principals here, any of you guys using the new SharePoint 2013? Or you already have it for your schools? Okay. So you guys have a pretty good idea. Well, no, not the whole school district is on this yet. You guys were on the first rollout. So only half the district is using it right now. Excuse me? Yes. Yep. So only half the schools. That's why one of the main reasons why we wanted.
But all secondary schools have it.
Yeah. All high schools and half the middle, only middle and elementary was east and west and district schools.
North.
Excuse me, east and north and district schools. The other learning communities haven't received this yet. So you guys, that's why some of you have not. So you guys are going to be looking at this for the first time. And that was the main purpose, that we wanted to get as many principals here to see what they have coming to them or what you can do with what you have right now. So being that this is external facing, you can get this anytime, any place you have internet connection to get to your SharePoint site, to be able to set up things like Doug said in alerts. And if any library, any list, can be set up in an alert. If you see at the top, Hector showing you a little, it says alert me bell. This particular library, which is the Freedom Middle's announcement section. If Hector wants to get an alert when a teacher wants an announcement read on the news, he will go in here, put his name where it says send an alert to the user. He has it, again, connected to the Active Directory. All you have to do is put in, it will automatically put in the person's name that is logged in, or you, because you're principals, you are the owners of the sites, and whoever you deem to be owners of the sites will have the ability to add people above yourself. If you are only a content creator, so not an owner, you can only add yourself. So, and then you can be able to go ahead and said, okay, send me an email on all changes. I want all changes to happen, whether it's an update or something new. And then I want you to send me an alert notification immediately, send it daily summary, or you can set up a weekly summary. Most of these things, and I'm sure Doug wants to know immediately. So he will get an email as soon as that happens. And then if there's a document attached to that upload, like the teacher uploaded a lesson plan, the attachment will be in that email as well.
One thing I would say is be careful about what you set alerts up on. One of the things we tried is to get alerts for lesson plans. Okay, it worked at Freedom Middle School. I got an alert for every teacher that put in a lesson plan. That way I could keep tabs that they were turning it in. It does not work at West Orange High School. Okay, it's too much because that entire folder, lesson plan folder, all 215 of my instructional staff, all of those alerts every week are going to come. And it's just too much. And I'm good at keeping my email clean, and it was too much.
But something like that, you might want to set up a daily or even a weekly if it's something that you don't need to react to immediately. So you can control that with alerts, which is really nice. So the top level, every site is going to look the same. We use the same templates for every site, every school. So you have all the same abilities as every other school. What you add to it is up to you.
I had a question about ISS and out of school suspension. Do you use alerts to notify the teachers that there's a need to attach? And tell me how that works.
Yeah, and it's really an organizational thing. I set up the ISS one. I told the ISS teachers, set up an alert for this form, which is that list for ISS. And then I have a document, and these guys have a short WebEx video that shows I can email it to them. It takes them through step by step with screenshots of how they set it up. Same thing with OSS. I told the front desk person on each campus, set up this alert so that it comes to you. So all they have to do is hit print, hand it to the parent, or they can just email it to the parent as well.
ISS or OSS, so they can upload the assignments.
Right now, that is still going through email. The discipline clerk sends out to those 7 teachers. They are doing it right now.
Just a question about entering lesson plans in SharePoint. Are you able to set it up? Because I think this is what we've been doing. Teachers would say, okay, Miller is my administrator or Jackson is my administrator. And so instead of having all those alerts come to you, would they just go to the supervising administrator? So you're not looking at 200, but you're looking at just the ones you.
Yeah, you could set it up that way.
That is an option.
The same library? No. It's going to go to everybody who has an alert. So if you have all your lesson plans going to one library, so they're uploading it to the same location.
But there's a place that asks for your administrator.
If that would be the metadata column, so it's saying select that. No,
Right.
it's still uploading to one library. So whoever has an alert to that particular library will receive an email.
Alerts, by definition, are based on the entire library. There is a possibility of doing it, but it's a little bit more work, and we haven't trained other people how to do it yet, and that's with workflows. And you'd have to create workflows and pull data out of the form and then assign the form to a specific person.
There's another option. Instead of making one library, you make a library for each of your administrators, and they upload the document to each library. Don't use a folder, because the folder is still going to take the alert from the entire library. So you can't control alerts on folders. So, but you can make another library. If you want to make a library for each one of your APs, you can then give an alert to the person responsible for that one library.
The one thing I would say about that is just be careful. You want this to simplify the teacher's life and your own, and not complicate it. And so setting up multiple libraries, yes, that would probably work. The difficulty is I got to go to this library for lesson plans. I got to go to this library for this. I got to go to this library. And you're making things a lot more cumbersome than easy. So, and a lot of that's trial and error, guys. It really is trial and error. I have changed things 100,000 times. He's on my speed dial, by the way.
I get enough calls from you too as well.
Just want to mention that we did steal Hector away from Doug.
Do I feel the bitterness?
Okay, I want to be mindful of the time that we've asked you here, because we did originally schedule it for 1 hour, and that hour is essentially up at this point. You could switch. What I'd like to do in terms of wrapping it up for today, and that doesn't mean you have to leave. If you want to stay and ask these guys questions, I'm sure they'll stay as long as there are people asking questions. But I do want to wrap it up in case anybody does have to get out of here. We did mention that we only did roughly half the schools this year, with all the high schools and the middle schools and elementaries from east and north. The second wave of schools will be starting their training to get ready to roll out in January. Now, what we're doing this time is we're going to be actually starting a little bit earlier. We're not going to wait till summer, but there were some problems by waiting till summer. So we're going to be having classes scheduled between January and May. And you'll get notification of that if you're part of the second wave. You'll get notification of that probably sometime in December, because we have to wait until the dates are actually solid, and we cannot solidify those dates prior to 6 months before all of them. So you'll get some notification a little bit later. We're going to try to ask people to sign up as early as possible. One of the problems we had this summer is people waited until the last session, and they all thought they could come to the last session. That just can't happen. So when we send out the schedule, please look at it and see when the best times are going to be. We will jump over the weeks for FCAT and things like that, so don't worry about that. But we have them scheduled out at this point as evenly as we could, mindful of testing periods through the rest of the school year starting in January. Some of the other things that I want to mention is that we have documentation, not only from today, but we have a lot of other documentation out on our websites, and we'll send out an email to let everybody know. You don't have to worry about writing all this stuff down from the screen. We'll send out an email to everyone and let you know where you can find documentation, where you can find our videos. As we said before, this particular session is being video recorded. We'll let you know when that becomes available. And there's going to be a discussion group on the one website, and that's also listed on this page, but again, we'll send it out to you. And what we'd like to do is have you start discussing things that you want to be able to do. One of the things that we learned is that by having a couple of pilot schools at the very beginning, we had a much more successful rollout this summer of the first wave. But the same is true of the first wave schools going into the second wave. We're going to be looking at what the first wave schools do, and we're going to find out some of the best examples, and we're going to convert some of those things into templates like we talked about before. And yes, that'll make it easier for the second wave schools. And well, unfortunately, some of you are the pioneers and some are following afterwards. But it will make it a lot easier for people to have consistent websites across the whole district, so that if teachers move from one school to another, and we all know that happens, or as TCs move from one school to another, they don't have to relearn how everything is done. Everything will look pretty much consistent across all the school sites. The last thing I want to mention, we talked a little bit about it earlier, but we talked about having people on the outside getting access to sites. You can give access to any OCPS employee. So if you want to share your site with other schools within your local area, like if you're a middle school and you want to share your site with elementary schools that feed into you, if you're a high school and you want to share with the middle school that feeds into you, you can certainly do that. And we have, as part of our training, we explain to people how you can go about adding other permissions. And of course, you can always contact us at Web Services, which we never introduced ourselves. My name's Mike Antonovich. I run Web Services. And then we have Mike Adani. He's basically in charge of all the school collaboration sites that we're doing for the portal. Hector Baez sitting back here. He's the one that we stole from Doug. He's our newest member, and basically between these two guys, I rely a lot on them because they've worked out at schools. So they know what it's like being out at a school, what it takes to get the work done at a school. I've also got at least two other people. I thought we had all three, but I guess the other one left. We got Sujeen sitting in the back. She's our forms expert. She doesn't like when I say that, but she is. So if you ever need forms, that's who we generally go to. And Amal. Amal is also from a school. He was from Bridgewater. He was part of one of our original pilots when we first rolled out school sites several years ago. So we feel we have a good team that can help support you. We do monthly open labs, and we will do anything we can within reason. We're not going to build your sites for you, but we will help you build your sites in terms of explaining things that you can do, things that you can't do, alternatives. We might even recommend some of the people that already built out some of the sites to explain how they did it. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for coming. If you still have additional questions, you're welcome to come up and ask these guys. I'm sure they'll stay as long as you have additional questions.
Let me close by just saying, I think the three of us have kind of proved it. If it has to do with documents or lists or anything, if you are creative enough, or if you can think it, it can be done on here. So don't hesitate. These guys are really great about answering the phone, which is really nice, or an email, and they'll help you out. I know that we'll help you out as well. But if you can think it, it can be done on here. You can do everything in-house digital.
You shouldn't have to print anymore. One last thing before you guys go. If you guys filled out the on Sign Me Up before you came here, I have all your emails to send you the information. If you didn't sign in and sign me up online for this training or this QA, please make sure you write down your either just write down your personnel number and get it to me, so I can send you the email with all the information that you're from our meeting today.
Two things. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here. Thank you very much. And you three, awesome job today. Thank you very much for presenting for these folks. Give them a hand. Give them. They took some time to do this for you guys. Have a great weekend, folks.
Does anybody have any questions? You guys have a nice weekend.